Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Needs Some Introduction. I'm your host, Victor, and on this podcast, I attempt to introduce all of you to something new, usually a TV series we're watching from week to week, usually with a co-host, and provide some context and humor along the way. In today's episode, Darren joins me once again. We'll be touching on quite a few topics. First of all, talking about the phenomenally successful Netflix series, Adolescence, followed by an April streaming preview for the entire month. Just some of the things I'll be watching and providing reviews and possibly standalone episodes to touch on some of these particular titles, depending on how interesting they are to me. So a viewing guide for a very busy month upcoming. And then we discuss the new Apple TV Plus Seth Rogan Hollywood satire series, The Studio. 2 episodes are currently available, 2 very entertaining episodes. And also introduce our next week-to-week series coverage that Darren and I will be reviewing here on the pod for about the next month and a half or so. The new Tom Hardy, Guy Ritchie directed series, Mobland. Of course, on the pod as well, we have just finished the second season of Severance and recorded a video episode. So if you have been watching that show and want to watch Sona and I on YouTube, review that episode. And of course, available as a podcast as well here in the feed. Some of the less detailed coverage episodes that I'll have, some shorter ones, may very well just end up on YouTube. I will let you know if that turns out to be the case, or subscribe to us on YouTube and keep an eye out for any of that upcoming content. Of course, subscribe to the pod so you get notifications when all this content becomes available. And as always, reach out to us, needssomeintroduction@gmail.com, with any of your feedback. What shows are you most looking forward to in April based on the descriptions I give in this episode? Or maybe I missed something and you are curious to add it to the list? Feel free to email us at needssomeintroduction@gmail.com. With that out of the way, let's get into the conversation. I wanted to kick things off with a little bit of a preview for everybody of things that are upcoming throughout April. March has been very busy as far as releases go, but most of these things I think were not the highest quality. Of course, some very big titles are approaching the end or wrapping up, like Severance. So maybe they didn't want to have too much competition on the... So I did dip into some of these March releases, not really enthused by most of what I saw, but April is chock full of interesting titles. And Darren, I'm going to run them down, make a few pitches here to the audience and to you in general, and you can give me a feel for which one of these you're on board with or not.
Okay, let's do it.
I'm not sure if you've seen this, but the one huge breakout of March was Adolescence on Netflix. Have you watched this?
I was excited about this show because I heard every episode was shot in one take or one shot. I was captivated, absolutely loved this show, and it seems like it's taken fire. And every time I open a news site, there's a new article about teenagers and about the emojis they use, or about violence against
Yes.
women, as all these things which are extremely important. But I thought the film was fascinating. I just want to see more dramas now that are filmed in one take, because I just thought it was so inventive. Especially, I mean, all 4 episodes are very different. So some people prefer maybe the 3rd episode with the psychologist, which I thought was fascinating. But I thought they were all fascinating. They all gave the actors an amazing format to show their talents, and also it's just incredible the way that it's done. And so I was all on board with this show, and I thought it delivered, and I thought it was quite heartbreaking.
I think that the audience scores are highest for that 3rd episode, I guess, because it's this 2 folks trapped in a room together, and that's always great drama. This kid, by the way, I don't know how old he is, a phenomenal actor for someone of his age, being able to pull off this oneer, basically this whole episode, which is just one shot. We'll be talking about oneers a couple of times in this episode, actually. But for me, the gut punch of the finale was, it's really where the emotion comes through. And it's funny because I think that's the episode that people see as a disappointment, because it doesn't feel like a procedural, like I guess people thought that it would be play out more like a mystery, but it's really just a day in the life of the family now dealing with the consequences of everything that's happened before. And it's so mundane as it starts off, and it starts to escalate. But by the time I got to the end, I was so knocked out. And what an incredible performance there by Stephen Graham. Is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name, and I think he was involved in creating it
Yes,
and
one of the
finding the
writers.
story.
Hmm.
And I mean, incredible talent. We've always known he was an amazing actor. And I think it came out of that film Boiling Point, which he did a
Yes.
couple of years ago, which I was a
Yep.
big fan of as well, which is also one shot. I think they did
Hmm.
4 or 5 takes
Yep.
over a few days. But yeah, as a father of a teenage boy,
Hmm.
I'd actually be interested in watching it with him to see what he thinks about it because, I mean, we have the idea of what is happening in their high school, and then they have a completely different idea
Right.
about what's happening. And especially that second episode, which I think it was the second, which goes through the high school,
Yep.
and people are like, they're not doing anything. What are they doing? They're not learning. They're just mucking around. And it's
Right.
like, I think it's actually quite true to life that there's kids that can slip through the gaps very quickly.
I had one of my nephews that went down a rabbit hole of following up on some of these types of toxic masculine media that really YouTube is popularized. And by the way, the New York Times had. If you haven't listened to this, I recommend this really highly to everybody out there who is curious about this topic. There was a podcast series from about 2 years ago called Rabbit Hole, and it
Mm.
is interviewing somebody who's come out the other side, a young man who now is a little bit older. The way that it starts, he looks at his YouTube history, and they're looking at how he's literally going from one episode to the other, one video to the other, and he sees how he's slipping into these online communities. It is touched on here in the show as well. And it's a really fascinating exploration of how easily the algorithm itself can simply just start feeding in to your tastes and what you click on, and how that could very quickly become a very toxic stew, especially if you are a young man who is oftentimes spending a lot of time alone. And apparently, this is kind of a plague among young men. A Wall Street Journal article, they're just talking about like what's wrong with men in America. And I assume this is globally as well as some of the other richer nations. These men are living longer and longer with their parents. They're entering the job market much later. They're not going to college in the same percentages as women are. They're not dating, and they're spending a lot of time alone, a lot of time alone. And they're finding their way into these online communities. And it is a reality that we all are dealing with as parents. But do track that down. It's fascinating. It's called Rabbit Hole, and it's available as a podcast. You can binge it now. It's about 2 years old and highly recommended, and touches on some of these things. The second episode of this show I found kind of shocking how terrible the school experience is. And our high school is not this bad, I have to tell you. Like, it does seem to be that every time I watch these British crime shows, high school seems to be a true cesspool. So I'm not sure if this is an exaggeration for TV or if this is actually how it is, but it is disturbing to see, to say the least.
Yeah, it's shocking, and it's you almost need to understand how the algorithm works because I mean,
Hmm.
I look at something on YouTube that I'm like, just have a passing interest in, and then all of
Yeah,
a sudden it's feeding me all these things.
right,
I'm like, I don't want that anymore. I want to just
right.
just flick that for a while, and I don't know how to do that. So if you young developing mind, I mean, you can see how easy you can fall into that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This show, which I thought was truly fantastic, and I binged it right away. Watched the first episode or two, and I'm like, "Ooh, this was really good." I didn't get to finish it, but then I watched it probably the very next day. I finished off the show. It's only 4 episodes, by the way, everybody.
Mm.
Very short time commitment. All the episodes are about an hour long. They're all oneers, like Darren mentioned. Pretty amazing technical accomplishment. There's this incredible shot they have where they have passed off the camera to a drone, and then they go to handheld again. I'd love to see the logistics of the behind the scenes on some of these shots. Very cool experiment there, all to heighten the tension here of the performances. And it all feels like real time. It feels immediate and really compelling. The one negative thing I'd say about it is that I do feel like it's called Adolescence, but I don't feel like I know what is happening with these teens. I really feel like these are adults. And I appreciate this perspective, by the way, adults that are looking at these teens and are afraid of them as individuals, or afraid of what they might become, or afraid of the world that they inhabit that they're not familiar with. But it very much feels like you are an observer of the teens rather than feeling like this is the teenage experience. So I think that's a little bit of a limitation in the show. but as a a wake up call, perhaps for us to keep closer eyes on our kids, which I think we all probably should do more of. I think it's a important piece of work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and it comes out of the first episode where the boy is arrested, and
Yeah.
the family is there looking on, and if you really put yourself in that position about how
Mhm.
you would react as a father, and going to the police station and going through just these monotonous administration just to get into the cell, and then you need a lawyer, and then you need a psychologist, and then you need all this help and all these things that you need to sign, and just the intense emotion that you would go through, wondering why your child is in this position. I mean, it is heartbreaking, that first episode, and I
Absolutely.
mean and each episode is different.
Right.
Fascinating show.
And it's become an utter phenomenon. It's about a year ago that a similar thing happened to another British show, the Baby Reindeer, which took a little longer. It took, I think, the first week it did okay for a low budget show like that. The second week is when it really took off, and then by the third week and fourth week, it eventually became one of the biggest shows in Netflix history. But it did take about a month to really catch fire. This show, on the other hand, had a huge debut. So even though it started slowly, by the end of the weekend, it was already enormous. And its second week, the ratings just came out for last week, is even more huge. It is about to crack the top 10 all-time list of English language shows on Netflix. They keep a tally. It's about to crack that list after only like 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So it is going to be one of their biggest hits. And once again, just like Baby Reindeer, I am pretty sure when they greenlit this, which is not a very expensive movie, you think about that. What's that movie they just made? That $300 million movie they did with the Russo brothers,
Oh
which is
God, the Electric State.
yes, which is not doing very well at all. This thing didn't even cost 1/10 of what that movie cost, and it's going to be a massive success for Netflix, and deservedly so. It's a really good piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, so good. And as I was watching, I was like, I want to see more of
Yeah,
these one shot things where I can just put myself into the action like this. And we do see another one this week.
exactly. And I do want to call out, if you liked the vibe of this show, not the milieu or the social commentary, but just this idea of this tense one shot with the same actors, Stephen Graham once again, and the same filmmakers who made this show. You already mentioned it, but it's Boiling Point, which is available on Amazon Prime. It just popped up on Amazon Prime, so check that out. It is the inspiration for the show The Bear. So if you love The Bear, do check this out. It is one very hectic day as a one shot of Stephen Graham running a kitchen. Very exciting. And of course, also, there is a British series, Boiling Point, which has Stephen Graham in it also, which premiered just last year, probably because of the success of The Bear. And it is a episodic, maybe just 6 episodes, I think. And each one is a oneer. So very much the template of this show. So check those out. You'll definitely like them. I don't think anybody I've recommended that to hasn't loved it. So do check it out. If you're a fan of The Bear, if you're a fan of this, you're a fan of Stephen Graham, you're going to like it. So check those out. Okay, we have tried multiple times now, Darren, to find something to watch. Paradise was a huge success here on the podcast for us. I'm looking for something that's meaty enough to talk about week to week. I like Dope Thief. Found this week's episode a bit of filler, even at just episode 3. So I'm not sure if that's going to be something we can talk about in any great detail. What'd you think of it before we move on? What'd you think of that third episode?
Yeah, to be honest, I enjoyed it, but thinking back on it now, it's almost a week. I can't really remember it. So I'm not sure if that's a very good indication of the quality of the show. But I did enjoy it, but I think the way that they're balancing the humor with the extreme violence
Mhm.
is a little bit unsettling to me. It
Yeah.
doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I don't think they got the tone right. I know you recommended to me Mr. In Between, for example. I bring that up as an example of a show that was able to balance those two things out, almost surprise you with the violence after giving you the comedy, or vice versa, actually. I don't think this show is balancing that as well, like you mentioned. And in this episode, they keep the protagonists separated for most of the
Mm.
show. I don't understand that. We've just gotten to meet these guys like literally a week ago. Not sure why you would separate them so early on. And then there has this culminating point. There's a setup at the prison. I'm not going to spoil too much here in case people are catching up on it. The bad guys are all there. They all showed up outside at the same time. Doesn't really seem like a good strategy considering they're trying to get one guy who's probably unarmed since he just walked out of a prison where they screen you at the door. So it just seemed like a very much of a nothing burger episode and a little early for that, considering this is a very short season. I enjoyed it, but I just don't know if there's enough here to go week to week with. And then, of course, this critically acclaimed studio show, which we're about to discuss here. But even seeing this, very much enjoyed this, by the way. Again, other than that scene was really funny. I'm not sure how much there is to speak on these episodes. So I do think, Darren, here's your homework for next week. And for all of you out there, I think we're on to, I've already announced this to you, so not a surprise to you, but maybe to the audience. I think the next watch for us is going to be Mobland, which comes to us from Ronan Bennett, is the creator of the show, who just was the showrunner and creator of Day of the Jackal. Very popular here on the podcast. And Top Boy, by the way, which I've never seen, but I've heard very good things about. And all these scripts are written by Ronan Bennett and Jez Butterworth, who's one of the brothers who wrote The Agency, which we just wrapped up recently here as well. So we have a lot of shared DNA here. We got the Day of the Jackal connection. We got the Agency connection, directed by, the first two episodes at least, directed by Guy Ritchie, another person I'm usually interested in his work, and featuring Tom Hardy, which has emerged from 8 years of playing Venom. Finally, is going to do something other than play Venom. He's already started. He had the Bike Riders last year, which was good. I liked it. Not great, but I liked it. We have Havoc. We touched on briefly with the one-man wrecking crew recommendations last week. So that movie is coming later this very month. And he plays a fixer here, a fixer for this Irish family of mobsters. He's trying to unravel some kind of criminal conspiracy undermining this criminal family, and his job is to unravel it. We have Helen Mirren as the matriarch and Pierce Brosnan as the head of this crime family. We also have Paddy Constantine. I'm always a fan of his as well. And pretty much an all-star cast of British TV royalty beyond these very big stars. So this seems to be something we can get into a little deeper.
Okay, you're doing a good sell. There's I think you had me at Guy Ritchie and The Agency and Day of the Jackal, I think so. And Tom Hardy, of course.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. She's 8 years of Venom. That's a long time to do that one character and not do much else.
That's pretty much it. I mean, he did the movie he did with Christopher Nolan.
Dunkirk.
Okay. He did Dunkirk, and then 1 year after that, he does the first Venom movie, and then he's got 3 Venom movies in 8 years. And by the way, those movies are pretty terrible. So to have given up 8 years of his career to that character is a pretty sad state of affairs. He really just disappeared for 8 years into the Venom world, which probably made him a fortune, by the way, but not great. So I'm looking forward to it. And he has a busy year, by the way. We have a bunch of things of his coming out this year. So hopefully he'll be reemerging in not terrible content.
Okay, so is this a Netflix show? And when does this?
Oh, this is Paramount Plus. Yeah, good point. Yes, Plus. Very good. Okay. Paramount Plus. It's on Sunday nights, but it could be on Showtime too. I honestly don't know how this works. Okay, so here's the rundown of things you may be interested in seeing this month. And you tell me, Darren, which one of these interests you or not. Okay, number one. On April 3rd, we have The Bondsman. So this is based on a comic book, stars Kevin Bacon. This is a guy who used to be a rock star who went to hell and now is he's the bondsman. He has to go and redeem himself, like get his way out of hell and maybe even reincarnate himself. He's like a bounty hunter for the devil, tracking down other demons on Earth. What do you think about this one?
I think I did check a trailer out of this. It looks absolutely ludicrous. So yeah, yes. It could be very interesting. Kevin Bacon's always great. But yeah, it looked pretty funny.
And Kevin Bacon, of course, has his own rock band, so he does his own music in here. And this is comedy. This is action. So this could be really bad, by the way, but I'm intrigued. If this works, it would be the type of fun show that I like. It could be terrible, though. What is that? There is a Nicolas Cage. Oh, Drive Angry. Have you ever seen Drive Angry?
I have not seen that one. No.
There's a Nicolas Cage movie called Drive Angry. It was shot in 3D. It was a huge flop when it came out. I actually love that terrible movie. If this movie has the vibes of Drive Angry, I'm on board. We will see. We will see. Anyway, April 3rd. It's a binge, by the way, so we don't have to go week to week on that one. If you're curious, you can sample as much of it as you want just next week, actually. So on April 4th on Hulu, there is a show starring Michelle Williams and Jenny Slate. Have you ever heard of the podcast Dying for Sex? Have you heard about this?
I have not.
So this is a very popular podcast where these two women, the Michelle Williams character, she was diagnosed with cancer and she goes on a personal odyssey, which includes her basically just giving it to any sexual desire she has. And she talks about it on the podcast. But I'm a big Michelle Williams fan. I'm very interested in this idea of, exploring your inner fantasies and basically your confrontation with death as a trigger for it. So I am curious about this one.
That does actually ring a bell, that real life story, and that sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Sounds like you go anywhere with it.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, if this was like a no-name cast, but the fact Michelle Williams is playing the lead role is what makes me really interested in it because she's one of my favorite actresses, and seems like she wouldn't commit to a bad version of this. Curious to check
Sounds
that.
like a couples show too. I don't know if I could get my wife to get involved with the bondsman, but maybe this one.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. The reason I call that one out specifically, if I could get my wife to watch it with me, I think it would be something we would enjoy watching together. I've never asked you this, but also from Hulu, just 1 week later, on April 8th, we have The Handmaid's Tale. Have you watched any of this show?
Uh, no, a couple of episodes here and there.
Yeah.
My wife was a massive fan, and she
Mhm.
she loved that show.
Yeah.
So I gather she'll be into the next season as well. But geez, they're ringing it out, aren't they? Again and again.
This is the last season, the fifth
Okay.
season here. So this is actually the final season. And my sister is a huge fan of this show. I have tried to watch it. It is such a downer. I cannot get into it. But I did want to call it out because I know people who watch this show who love this show. I could never get into it. And now I'm 50 episodes behind. It's never going to happen. But I do want to shout it out because, of course, to some people, it is, so for your wife, for example, you may want to let her know that it's coming back.
Yeah, I think she'll be into it for sure.
And of course, if you get that, if you have your Hulu subscription, then of course you also have the Dying for Sex and maybe something you guys can watch together. Hacks. Have you watched Hacks?
That's one another show that I haven't got caught up on. It's on another streaming service that we don't have, and I haven't been pressed to go and get it. But I've just heard nothing but positive things about the show.
Hacks is back for fourth season. I think they're just going to keep going with this one at this point. This is not the final season for this one. I'm a whole season behind. I didn't watch any of season three. I loved season one. I thought it was hilarious. This is my problem with sitcoms in general. Season two was fine. I like the characters, but even like with Ted Lasso, by the end of season two, I was kind of like, okay, I got it. I'm good. And that's kind of how I felt about it. And I heard season three was good also. I'm totally behind on there, but I did want to shout it out because, if you do like it, it is coming back. And I thought season one was terrific. So I see the appeal, but like I said, in general with comedies, a season or two, and I'm usually done with them. So I'm just going through my list here. Oh, of course, April 10th. This one, I'm definitely going to do an episode on this. I have covered Black Mirror on the podcast multiple times. I have one episode where I ranked all the episodes. And then I also reviewed the previous season, which is about a year and a half ago, ranked those episodes as well. And both of those episodes were very popular. So I will certainly be watching this one. And it is the seventh season of Black Mirror. There are 6 episodes. I like it when there's more episodes than less, because then if there's one or two bad ones, I can still get a satisfying experience. There was a particular season where they had only 3 episodes, and I thought all 3 of them sucked, and I was really down on the season after, or I should say, the whole Black Mirror experiment at that point. How far have you gotten with Black Mirror?
So I've probably seen the first couple of seasons and then episodes here and there, just because I struggle to put them on to relax at night because often they make me question my whole life's existence in a very dark ways.
Yes.
Which one? I'll endeavour to have a go at this season. Now, one of the episodes is a is a sequel. Is that
Hmm.
right? Which
Yes.
I haven't seen the original, so I might
Yes.
have to catch up on that episode before I start watching. But I'm interested, but I'm going to tread lightly, I think.
I mean, if you wanted to do the episode with me, this is an anthology. You can watch them all independently, except for the USS Callister sequel. So you definitely want to check that one out. I believe that's the first episode of season 4. No, no, sorry, season
Okay.
5. That second Netflix season, and it is basically a spoof of Star Trek. Very entertaining. This is a sequel to that episode. People love that episode. That episode is incredibly well made. The acting is fantastic. It is so entertaining. All the jokes are so funny. But at the same time, I'm like, this technology, and I won't spoil anything here, is absolutely preposterous. So I have a huge problem with like being able to clear that hurdle of buying into the premise at all. But if you get past that, and I guess you oftentimes have to swallow a lot to get over the premise for these science fiction shows specifically. That's the thing I like about Black Mirror in their best episodes. I feel like this technology could actually exist even now, or if it did exist, everybody would want it. That one, I'm like, how would this work? But anyway, you could watch it on your own, and if you wanted to sample the most recent ones, I sent you this list, but in the show notes of that Black Mirror episode, I actually ranked the shows in the order I think people should watch it. If you're not a Black Mirror fan, ease you into like, the more comedic ones, the ones that are more casual watches, and then the really grim, tougher stuff comes later on. Because some of those episodes are like really rough for sure, but that's part of the appeal of the show.
I think the last one I saw was it Josh Hartnett and Aaron Paul, and they were
Oh,
astronauts.
yes.
Gee,
Yeah.
I've
I
gone
don't like
back
that
to
episode. I don't like that.
since that one.
Yeah, that was the most recent season, actually. I don't actually like that episode, but I know people who are fans of it. I like what they're trying to do, but it's like you said, by the time you get to the third, grim twist, you're like, okay, what are we doing here? But still, in general, big fan of the show. Despite all
So
that, I
what's
still a big.
so I'm interested. So I haven't listened to that episode of your show. What's your favorite episode?
Oh, okay, my favorite episode is probably either San Junipero
Mhm.
or Black Christmas. Those are probably my two favorites. If you don't know the show, or if you vaguely know it, San Junipero is the one where it seems like it's set in the 80s and these two girls meet each other and they start a romance.
Mm.
Do you know this episode?
I have seen that one. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fantastic, isn't
it's
it?
really good.
Yep.
And it's based, it actually won an Emmy Award for Best Movie because it's an hour and 50 minutes long. So it qualifies as a movie. So it actually won the Emmy for Best Movie that year. And I thought that one was really good. And the Black Christmas one is an anthology episode. The first one they did back in the UK, where John Hamm is the rapper, is like the connective tissue between all the stories. Have you seen that one?
I saw the first season. Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell.
And you know how the UK they have like a outside of the season they'll do like a Christmas special and they play it on Christmas. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yep.
this
Yep.
tradition. Anyway, it was their Christmas special for season 2, and it is longer than a single episode. It's like almost an hour and a half long, and it's an anthology of episodes, and they all feature John Hamm, who's also in the wraparound story, and that one is incredible. I think it's the highest rated episode of the show in general, so you should track it down. It's available on Netflix. Even the UK episodes are available on Netflix. So check that one out. Some of the anthology episodes within the movie itself are funny. Some of them are a little bit dark, but the button on that episode will haunt your dreams. So be prepared. It's grim stuff there. Yeah, that was going to be not one to watch right before you go to sleep. Not because it's terrifying, because it will give you severe existential angst. Maybe of all the episodes, the most.
Oh, that's so funny. I think my favorite is the Bryce Dallas Howard
Yes, I
one. I
love
think
that one.
is it
Mhm.
called Joyride? I can't remember what it's called.
Nosedive.
Yeah, that was
Nosedive.
Nosedive. That's right.
In my ranking of how you should watch the episodes, Nosedive was my number one. Not because it's my favorite episode. Although it's beautifully, I mean, really well made. When you think about, the ranking of all of your human behaviors and like that as something that culturally at the moment seemed something that was happening in all interactions. So it really seemed of the moment, and seeing her spiral out was great. But anyway, I had that one ranked as my number one because it doesn't make you feel terrible at the end. And it's very well produced and the acting's terrific. It had all the positive aspects of it and not none of the real grim feelings that the show can give you sometimes.
Yeah, and also the very first episode of the very first season. I think most people will remember
Oh yeah,
where they were when they first watched that. Going, what is this show actually doing?
yeah. I remember like when I first saw that very first season of that show. It was not available in the U.S. And it was just something that people buzzed about on the internet, but it wasn't available. And I watched that episode, and it was good. But I was like, wow, this is the show everybody's talking about. Damn, this is like rough stuff. It's like pretty bleak. And then I watched the rest of it, and I liked the rest of the season better than that first episode. I think it's in the first season, the one with Donald Gleason dies early on, and then his wife starts to talk with the chatbot. Is that, do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, that rings a bell. Mm.
That's one of my favorites for sure. And I think about how people have these relationships with their AI now, these chatbots, all foretold in that episode from over 10. I mean, it's like 15 years ago now, the first season of that show.
Yeah, is it Charlie Booker? Charlie Brooker?
Charlie Brooker, yeah. Yeah.
He's just on point with his ideas. I mean, he
Yep.
just seems like he's years ahead, and these things just come true. It's so scary.
It's really true. As the reality of the world has caught up to him, the show isn't as spot on as it was before. And it's also, I mean, there's a lot of pressure here. He's got this Netflix money.
Absolutely.
He's got to do 7 or 8 episodes, as opposed to this idea of just dropping like 3 episodes every 3 years or something. The pressure was much lower back in the day. I think the batting average for these episodes, there's some terrible ones, to be honest, but the batting average is still like 75, 80% really good stuff. And even the bad ones, I think, have moments. So I'm always on board for this project of his. Oh, and even better is that in the most recent season, for me, there were people who were so angry that he had not Black Mirror, there was a Red Mirror episode. Brooker announced that there will be Red Mirror, which are going to be horror anthology episodes. And people were so mad. This isn't horror, this is sci-fi, even though there has definitely been horror in this show, by the way. But I'm like, hey, Brooker has a spin-off of horror. I'm 100% on board for that one. Give me a Black Mirror. Give me a Black Mirror season and then a Red Mirror season. Keep it going. I'm on board.
That sounds insane. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's the plan at some point. So.
Didn't they have like a choose your own adventure episode?
Yes.
As well.
Yep. Mm. Yeah. Did you ever see that one?
I did. Yeah, just because it was different and new. But I don't have very strong feelings about it.
I'm still on board with it, though. Still on board. And then just one day after that, of course, our next big, probably signature watch along here for the podcast in general, your friends and neighbors. Very much looking forward to this. Have you seen the trailer for this yet?
I have not seen it, no.
This is John Hamm. This has already been renewed for season 2. It's on Apple TV Plus. It is about a rich guy who loses his job and he lives in this beautiful gated community right on a golf course. He suddenly needs money to keep appearances up. So what he decides to do is he walks around his friends' houses and he sees how they're so wealthy. They have so many things they don't even use. So he starts to break into their homes and steal their stuff to pawn. So he becomes a criminal, stealing his own friends' and neighbors' things, where the title comes from. But simultaneously, when he's actually breaking into all these people's homes, he starts to discover their secrets, and all of them have dark secrets that they're hiding from each other as well. This very intriguing, comedic, but very much a thriller from seeing the trailer. That seems to be stakes get very high. He starts, hanging out with these underworld figures and getting deeper into that part of it. And of course, still maintaining this facade that he's still this rich, successful guy. Really looks great. And it's like a perfect role for him.
Yeah, you always got to ask, why is it getting renewed for a second season before it's even come out? So.
Yeah, apparently Apple loved what they saw. And they not only did they renew it instantly for a season 2, they started to announce it back in October or November when they finished wrapping on season 1. They started to do promotion for it. These guys fell in love with the show like when it was like in production still. So from seeing the trailer, I can see the appeal of it as well. So definitely looking forward to this one. Okay, Last of Us season two coming on the 13th. A very busy week that week, by the way. We have The Last of Us season two coming. I have significant issues with Last of Us. I know you never finished season one, so we can put a pin in that. I will probably watch season two. It's such a short season, and season one was a phenomenon. It's the first season of the show is more popular than even Game of Thrones. It's like one of HBO's biggest hits of all times. I honestly don't understand what the appeal is to that extent. I mean, I think it's a very well made show. I just don't understand that level of appeal. I'll definitely be watching it. It's only 7 episodes. I'm committed to watch it.
Yeah, I think I saw 2 or 3 episodes, and I was like, I got a feel for it, and yeah, it wasn't a couple show, put it that way. And
Oh no,
and at
no.
that stage, I was like, oh, I can't give up my time to watch this. But I did think the episode with the two gay guys
Mhm.
was just brilliant, and I think once I saw that, I was like, I don't think the show can get any better. That was such a great little episode. I'll just leave it there.
There's another really good bottle episode like that you can watch. I think it's the not the penultimate episode. It was like maybe 2 episodes before the ending, where it's like a flashback to when the outbreak started, and it's the Bella Ramsey character. She has this friendship with this girl. Maybe it's turning romantic initially, and they like hang out at the mall, and it's just them hanging out at this moment in time. And the show is so good when it is in those types of episodes where it's really just the characters living in the world that's so well created. But then like sometimes just the plot elements of it, like the stuff that should be easy for me, it just doesn't really work. And I'm a little worn out on zombies, but we'll. But yeah, like I said, 7 episodes. I'll give it a shot. The Rehearsal. Are you a Nathan Fielder fan? And did you watch season one of The Rehearsal?
Oh my God, I love this guy. I'm not sure if, yeah, I did watch the first season. Yeah, I got onto him somewhere along the line. I watched The Curse, which I thought was
Mhm.
brilliant, so weird, and I think he's so weird and so fascinating. And this is the first time that I've learnt that he's doing a second season of The Rehearsal. So yeah, I'm really excited.
So that might be the most excited you got for. Oh, actually, but of course, the next title is even more exciting to you, and we'll definitely be covering this as well, which is Andor, which starts on
Oh
the
yeah.
22nd.
Yeah, I'm almost a bit too excited about this. It's just that first season of TV was brilliant. So can they do it again?
Yeah, exactly. Did you hear they spent like $700 million on these 2 seasons of show? It's insane. It's really crazy. And we'll never see another season of the show for that very reason.
Yeah, I did read a couple of years ago that they wanted to do like 5 seasons, and
Yes.
the
Mhm.
director was talking with the actor, and he said this is going to take 10 to 15 years to do 5 seasons of this.
Yeah.
You're going to be an old man. You're not going to be want to be in front of the camera anymore. Let's just focus on a couple and then get it done.
That would have been crazy, by the way, because if they drag this on, you have to remember that Diego Luna, this is a prequel to, uh, you
Yeah,
know, um,
yeah.
uh, Rogue
Rogue One.
Rogue One. So this is like Better Call Saul. Same problem where Oderkirk is like 20 years older than he was at the beginning of Breaking Bad by the end of both of those shows. And he's supposed to be playing, in a prequel to Breaking Bad. So it's, like we don't want to drag things out that much. I guess you could suspend disbelief. I did for Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I did too. And it was easy to do because that was such a quality show. I do worry about Andor, whether they're gonna take it right up to Rogue One, to the start of Rogue One. I'm just wondering whether any other Star Wars characters are going to be parachuted into this series when you don't really need them.
I just feel like I think that they probably would have extended this longer if the show cost less or if the season one had been more popular. It's like the least popular of all the Star Wars products, believe it or not. Some of these ones that fans hate actually have much bigger, like Ahsoka is getting a second season, much more popular, by the way, than this show. And I think maybe if it was more popular, Star Wars would have started putting their fingers in there, being like, "Oh, you got to, we're going to make 5 seasons of this, and we're going to put these characters in there, all that stuff." I think given the fact that they're just kind of letting him wrap up the story and that they gave him a huge budget for it, obviously they want to keep him happy. Other than that, they're just going to let him do it the way he wants to. I don't think they're going to try to mess with it because it's not like Andor's suddenly going to become a huge blockbuster for them. But and hey, I don't care. I just want a good show. I don't care how
Oh,
popular
I
it
don't
is.
care either. It's bizarre to me that it's not the most popular thing because it's
Same.
the best thing they've done.
Yeah, exactly. Much better than basically even most of, I mean, most of the movies for sure. Even the original movies is probably better than like,
Yeah,
other than Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, basically it's better than everything else.
easily.
Do you watch You on Netflix at all?
No, never
No.
seen it. Don't know anything about
Okay. It's
it.
very much like a Dexter type show. Sona loves his show.
Okay.
Anyway, final season for that one. Just letting everybody know. I tried to watch this with Sona because she's such a big fan of it. And it's, it's like Dexter, but it's a soap opera crossed with Dexter. I was like, okay, I'm not, I'm out. But it is finishing up, final season, wrapping up this year. Some movies now I want to call out April 25th on Netflix, Tom Hardy's Havoc, which we touched on already a couple of times. Definitely something I'm looking forward to. Love Gareth Evans in general. Love his brand of action, and whether that's Gangs of London or the Raid movies. And of course, Tom Hardy kicking butts. He's an actual MMA fighter, so should be able to pull that off pretty easily. Baby Girl, which was a pretty surprising big hit, came out at Christmas time this year, recent year, this most recent year, starring Nicole Kidman, coming to Max right around the same time, end of the month. By the way, if you're curious about Shutter movies come out on Hulu about a year after they premiere on Shutter. So some movies that Darren and I have mentioned on the podcast before, In a Violent Nature is coming to Hulu this month. Asriel, by the way, anybody who saw The Gorge and wish that they had done a more subtle version of that story, check out Asriel with Samara Weaving, which has no dialogue or almost no dialogue in it at all. And it is a similar movie to A Gorge, but done on a tiny budget. Have you seen this one, Asriel?
No, I haven't. First time I'm hearing of it.
You may enjoy this, and very low budget, by the way, but very clever what they do, and with a very small budget. And Summer Weaving, as she often is terrific in the movie, and she's basically the star. It's just her trying to survive this impossible post-apocalyptic world she lives in, surrounded by demons apparently. And you just saw, speaking of this, the way that Shutter premieres things on Hulu about a year. You just saw the Late Night with the Devil, right? Didn't you just watch that recently?
Oh, I did. Yes. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
That's another Shutter movie that just popped up on Hulu recently. I had issues with the film. I think we talked about it, but I think that David Dismalchin, I think his name is, what
So
is
good.
so incredible in that. I really want to see him get more leading roles. He's been one of those that guys, like one of the weird, hanger on in the Dark Knight movies and in Dune, and so he has a very unique look. So he kind of gets these kind of roles. I think this is the first time he ever had a starring role, and he is fantastic.
He's genius in it. Yeah, he's always this creepy guy in the shadows, but in
Right?
this film, he's the talk show host, and he's there the whole time. And the whole framing device for that movie is so fun, and I think it works really well.
Yeah, that was a really one of those word of mouth hits from last year. Okay, last topic, the studio. So this comes
Yes.
from Seth Rogan and Evan Goldberg, his writing partner. They both write and direct every episode of the show. He also has brought in all his friends. He, for example, was in The Fablemans with Paul Dano. So Dano makes a cameo here. He was in Long Shot with Charlize Theron. So, of course, she makes a cameo appearance here. Or he was directed by Sarah Polley in Take This Waltz, which very good movie, by the way, that no one's seen. Definitely check that one out with Michelle Williams. It's funny, he's the cuckolder in The Fablemans. He is the cuckolded husband in Take This Waltz. Is terrific. If you've never seen that, I basically loved everything that Sarah Polley has directed. Anyway, she plays the director of this oneer in the second episode of this show. So he's called in all the favors with all his friends. And those aren't the only people that are here. He also has Bryan Cranston playing this CEO who puts him in charge of production at this fictional studio. And you were a big fan of that HBO show called The Franchise. How did you like this in comparison to that? How did you like this just in general?
I loved it. I thought it was so entertaining. It's like the franchise on steroids.
Right.
Um, it is so well done. The costuming, the sets, the attempts at Oneers.
Hmm.
You forgot to mention Martin Scorsese. He
Oh,
was
of
my
course, he's
favorite
so funny in
cameo.
this. So funny in this. Yeah.
Seeing him act again, oh, I just love it. You can see why it's just got so many positive ratings. I can't wait for the next episode. It's could only come from people that have been in Hollywood for such a long time that they can call in the favors and they know in jokes. Is it like Veep? I was never much of a Veep
Oh,
fan,
Veep
but
is
it
so
seems
good.
like it's that kind of thing that there's inside jokes, but if you're a fan of these things, then you get most of the jokes. Big fan of the show, super entertaining. Can't wait to see the next one.
There are so many Easter eggs here. For example, the Cranston character is called Griffin Mill, and Griffin Mill is the name of the Tim Robbins character in The Player, Robert Altman's movie, The Player in 1992. So it could be a coincidental name, or it's funny. You can imagine that he like grew up to become the CEO of this company. And that's what he looks like now after this period of time, and he's like completely morally bankrupt here trying to make a franchise out of the Kool-Aid guy. Every time the joke was like that, everybody was like they're moving forward with the Kool-Aid movie, and they're like, oh yeah. Every oh yeah made me crack up. And of course, The Player, if you haven't seen that, and I do highly recommend you watch that, a satire on how toxic this, trying to get a movie made in Hollywood, period, is. A really great movie from 1992. It opens with an 8-minute tracking shot in which they talk about the tracking shot in Touch of Evil, the Orson Welles movie. And so they actually make a longer tracking shot. Of course, they're using film. So a tracking shot for 8 or 10 minutes back then was a really big deal because you're actually using film in a camera. Now you shoot everything digitally, so you can make infinitely long tracking shots. And not only does episode one have multiple really long tracking shots, episode two is one gigantic 29-minute tracking shot. It's absolutely insane.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it took me a while to recognize Sarah Polly. I was like, I know her from somewhere. And she's been in some great films as an actor. I haven't
Yeah.
seen many of her films as a director, but it was so funny how she's so calm at the start of that
Yeah.
episode. She just commands the room by being super calm, and then she just gets unwound in a really realistic way by the end.
And the Catherine O'Hara character, who I forget the character's name, but she's definitely playing an Amy Pascal type character, which is very funny, by the way, that if anybody knows about the emails that leaked the Seth Rogan movie that was about to come out, where they kill Kim Jong Il in the film itself. So all that controversy, all the emails that got leaked out, Amy Pascal was in the middle of all of that. She lost her job as the head of Sony. But just like in this particular show, yet another Easter egg that they're saying, oh, they're letting her keep her name on the movies. Amy Pascal got to keep the Spider-Man movies. So you see all those Spider-Man movies across the Spider-Verse, everything Spider-Man still has her name on it. So even though she got fired, she's probably made way more money off the Spider-Man movies post her firing than she ever made as the head executive over there at Sony. And of course, she has a very close relation. Amy Pascal, that is, had a really close relationship with Seth Rogan, and backed him up when they were trying to release that movie in the middle of all that. There's so many little Easter eggs like that. If you know some of the inside stuff that's happening in Hollywood, the side referenced here. But I want to go back to the Martin Scorsese thing because I thought it was so funny when he starts thinking, oh, we can get the Kool-Aid movie made with Scorsese directing it because he sees himself as this like artist. Seth Rogan does. He's going to make real serious movies, but they only want to make these crappy franchise films. And he's like, oh, they can make a movie about Jonestown. That'll be our Kool-Aid movie in there. Where everybody drank the Kool-Aid and died. He thinks that's going to fly as a Kool-Aid movie.
I couldn't believe I didn't see it coming, and I was like, of course.
Same. Somehow I missed it. Yeah, exactly. It was so obvious. And I was like, oh my God, of course, drink the Kool-Aid.
And as an aside, one of the characters does his research. He goes, "Oh, they didn't actually use Kool-Aid in those murders. They used some other flavored drink."
But I know, but in popular consciousness, is all Kool-Aid. Yeah, and then the oneer that is just the physical performance of Seth Rogen being on camera and having to change costumes, and then that huge pratfall when he like smashes that table. all of that
Oh,
being orchestrated, and Sarah Polly, of course, pretending to be or acting as the director in the scene. And Greta Lee, man, when he comes out of the bathroom and he interrupted her shot,
oh, oh, oh.
it's
I knew that.
incredible.
You've been on film sets before, and you're just like, oh, everyone would just be like, I cannot believe that happened.
It was like the story you told where you were on in front of the camera with Guy Pierce without
Yeah.
realizing it.
Oh. That film in the second episode was done as the sun was setting,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
the actual first episode of the studio was similar. The sun was setting, and I thought they were doing a one. It went for quite a long
Yeah.
time. Just brilliant filmmaking. Not only taking the piss out of brilliant filmmaking, but they're actually doing brilliant filmmaking while they're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, no, especially the first episode's in around 40 minutes long, 40 some minutes long. The second one's only 20 something minutes long. It might have been because it was a oneer that it was a shorter episode. So I would assume these episodes are not going to go significantly longer than that. I am 100% on board. So I'm very entertained by it. If you like inside Hollywood, this is a real blast. I mean, beautifully made. At the same time, completely taking the piss out of the completely compromised studio system in Hollywood. Every once in a while, they still make great movies. If you like that's kind of the battle between commerce and art that is the movie industry. I think this is a lot of fun. Yeah, so I'll definitely keep checking in with this one.
And just the fact that the success of the Barbie movie is hanging over these
Yes.
this in this world, it's also hanging over our world. What's going to be next? How can you get like an indie type director to direct a Mattel toy to say something about society, but also make $1 billion? It's just maybe you can't. Maybe that was a one off.
Oh, I
We
think
need to
that
accept
definitely is a
that.
one-off. I remember seeing the trailer for Barbie and just thinking to myself, like, what that is going to be a fiasco, like a total fiasco. And yeah, and then it makes $1.5 billion. It's one of the, makes more money than the Avengers movies. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if a Kool-Aid movie would really be where I would go with that. Oh man, remember when they made Battleship into? Oh man, that is insane.
Yep, yep. I've seen Battleship.
Which was basically Transformers. It's hilarious that they made the Battleship is basically just a Transformers movie, but then they turned into like the pegs, like from insane. Like I'm like, what are you guys trying to do here? What were the other things they mentioned here? They're having making a Jenga movie,
The Jenga movie.
wooden blocks. Yeah, I'm not sure what else they could possibly make. All right, Darren, thank you again for the conversation.
Thanks so much.
All right, have a good week, and remember to watch Mobland. All
Okay. All right. Cheers,
right,
Victor.
all right, take care. Bye.